Hello everyone, this is Infinum here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Lightside GOTV. So there has been a lot of videos that have been made on this game mode because it's a 2019 game mode, but as every guild keeps progressing, there's still a lot of compositions and whatnot that can be improved upon, so it can do better in this game mode, as it's still very difficult for all 50 players inside guilds to pull flawless waves, and honestly there's a lot of waves that can be dropped, a lot of RNG that can happen, and some things I need to accept. This was the speech that they said when they brought in Lightside GOTV. So let's go a little bit into here. We have this whole sheet, or a PDF of this. We also have a PowerPoint version of this inside of my Discord. You can join it via the description link, so you can have access to these images, so you can use them to your own advantage for your own Lightside GOTV. This being aware that Lightside GOTV is currently ongoing as well. We have put together some ideal comps that work super well in Lightside GOTV. Of course, not all of these are original, but all of these comps are tested and they're really good, so you can always use these teams to your own advantage here. I believe that this part in here with GK Lead is going to be swiftly changed over to Jedi Master Kenobi, but we don't have him in the game yet, and that will make that mission a lot easier, but I digress. So there's a couple of tips that we can talk about in regards to Lightside Geo to perform well. There's mods, there's skill orders, and checking bosses in regards to which team you're likely to face. But most importantly, just mods really help. If you can remod your teams to have them use your very best mods, they'll really help you out in Lightside Geo. One of the teams that is mostly overlooked in Lightside GOTV is the Padmé team. It is required in the special mission in P1, but it's often a team that just slowly gets out of the way, out of the users that have the highest end rosters. But really what I want to talk about is the situation that this team is actually really strong, really consistent for 4 out of 4s as well, as long as it's modded correctly. This team functions with a lot of health, and it needs a lot of that to sustain over the course of the 4 waves. So here we have some ideal mods in regards to what we can use in this team. Here I can include R2-D2, but we can also see that there's a couple other characters that you can use. Grandmaster Yoda works fine. 3PO works fine. General Skywalker also works fine. And it's a very... You have the 4 static slots between Padmé, Anakin, General Kenobi, and Ahsoka, but that 5th character can be pretty much anyone that is convenient to you, whether you platooned your 3PO and you need to use R2, or you just have a great use out of 3PO in this team. You have a lot of that, of a wiggle room to choose which 5th you want to use, but let's head over to the modding on these characters. So for Padmé, you're looking around 240 to 90 speed. Of course, you can exceed the speed threshold, but if you are exceeding the speed threshold, maybe try to compensate and go for a bit more health in case that is possible. In regards to Jedi Knight Anakin, you will want to have him really healthy as well. I actually have him at 75 to 90,000 health, but mine is actually over 100k. And that actually does benefit once you start going for the video footage. General Kenobi just needs to be really tanky. There's not a whole lot of needed speed for General Kenobi, because you will have to tank up some of those huge droidica hits. Ahsoka is another generator of your protection up. She can be a little bit squishier than the rest of your team. It does help you with getting those bonus turns for Jedi Knight Anakin, so you can fool the team. You can just put the protection up and start healing back over if needed. And she also does a lot of damage via her assists. She does a lot of work on droid battalion stacks. Ahsoka is an amazing character in this team, and if you have R2 in this situation, I'd recommend going for a healthy build so he can pass over his health over to the rest of the team. If you have General Skywalker, I'd recommend using him as another attacker that does really well on the B1 stacks, increases the droidic cooldowns if they don't have damage immunity, so he's another very good damage tool that you'd add to the team. In case you're going for Grandmaster Yoda, you actually want to speed him up and just keep him healthy, and you use him as a protection up generator and the B1/B2 stack shredder, because he gets the AoE bonus turn, goes for a basic, and removes 4 stacks out of that, so it can also be pretty fruitful. Another character to use here can also be 3PO. 3PO does increase health with the translation. He can also remove some cooldowns, call some assists. And if you're calling Padmé to assist, you're giving some protection up. So the team is actually pretty good too with 3PO in the mix. This also has a little bit of a strategy guide in here, but that part, let's just go over to the actual footage instead of just reading that part. Alrighty, so we're actually heading over to middle P1 mission because I've heard this one is difficult. So I wanted to test out my Padmé here because people tell me, oh, you're going for easier missions. I don't even know what's an easier mission in Lightside GOTV. But if there's one, middle P1 probably isn't that difficult. Here you can see the stats that I use. I try to use my own guidelines. That doesn't mean I kind of try to beat my own guidelines because we tried to make those mods a little bit doable, but here you can see which stats I ran with for the mission. The only R8 I have here is General Kenobi, who is needed for Jedi Master Kenobi. Jedi Knight Anakin is R7, the other three are Relic 5. So that's what we're rocking in for this mission. This guy was also done with Dan Goodenough, so he's another very experienced light side TB player who can get his 70 waves done. So, really good player. What do we have here? So we have a Droideka, we have B2s. How do we play this part? B2's gotta go first, because if B2 takes turns and he just starts shredding all of your buffs, that kind of hurts your run a little bit. So you want to make sure that you try to get B2 out of the way as quickly as possible. We're going to give translation over to Padmé, so she gets the extra plus 30% max health, and we're going to try to take off B2. And we do, which is great. Now, other things that we need to be concerned with, Droideka is one of them. Getting ourselves some protection up instead of going for the Dispel on Droideka is alright, especially with a Jedi Knight Anakin to go afterwards. And look, you have all of that protection up that was built via Ahsoka, via Jedi Knight Anakin, and you don't need to be too worried with this Droideka soup big hit, because look at our GK, he's still full health. We don't mod him for protection, we mod him for health, so he's still surviving pretty well. So you do want to make sure that when you're going against that Droideka there, you know, you do consider that you have a lot of protection up, or otherwise you know that you can control them. So there's that going. So here we just go for the confusion on Magna Guard. He's no longer a threat because of the 3PO assist, and now we just go after Droideka. He's the highest priority here. He needs to get taken care of, so we're gonna go as hard as we can for him. He's not dead. And we can start saving some cooldowns. I was assessing there, do I go for the kill on Magna Guard because he's going to be annoying later? Probably should, but at this point you just use basics, really. There's no huge need to use any health moves, because then you just have too much prod up, so no need. And now it's a little bit... Let's try to finish off the B1 stacks. You can keep the B1 alive for a little bit longer because he does attack out of turn, which gives you some bonus or some protection up for your General Kenobi when they're assisting on each other, but it's not a huge issue with the way this goes. Even with 2 armor shreds, GK didn't even reach the half health mark because Anakin didn't get triggered, so that's also not too bad. Okay, so here we have a lot of B1s, you have Spy, you have the Gunner. So the Gunner is a character that you want to get out as soon as possible, but you also need to take care of B2. B2 is the biggest priority in the Padmé team. You really need to take care of him first. So we're going to go in with a special, and we're going to try to treat this B2. Sometimes you can do some maths with the stacks to see if you're doing enough damage there. Had I used this special with Anakin there, I would have killed the B2 without needing any extra abilities, so... You know, sometimes just because you don't want to AoE to not proc the B2 doesn't mean you didn't have enough damage to actually stack up, because Ahsoka would assist, so... you do want to know the interactions of your team pretty well. Here I just give translation to a character that hadn't used the special yet. Now we kill the B1, we go for the other B1. But look at that damage from the Gunner, it's huge, so you really want to make sure that you take care of him. So at this point, I value the B1 more than I value the Spy. So I can take care of the Heavy Gunner. That is really where this is at. He's now gone, and now there's... Well, I actually went for the Mass Assist because I didn't want Spy to do any funny things. Because he's also high priority risk. Okay, again, B2, we gotta go for him. You can see how routined I am at this point to this kind of missions. I just don't even flinch. And yeah, you can go for the kick, finish off B2, it's all great, all good to go, so make sure to know if your characters have protection up when you're calling assists with Padme. And that's when having a squishy Ahsoka helps too, because you got that bonus turn pulled up. And right now the situation is looking kind of rough. So you're waiting for that Padme to come up with the heal and save your team, and that's exactly what happens. And that's where that speed from Padme actually kicked in. So she could get away from that ability block. And you're now stacking a lot of protection up. So you've got a lot of control at this point. Buff immunity, you can start going around to other characters. Please tell me a target spy. I did. Yes. So from here, you are kind of worried with Geo Soldier because he calls in assists. You kind of are worried with B1. You can leave B1 with really low stacks just so he keeps assisting. But yeah, it depends on how comfortable you are feeling with your team. But yet again, did you see how that Anakin reached half health there midway through P3? Had he not been health modded, he probably would have died. So that's where it's really important to make these guys really healthy. They have good health steal too, so they recover relatively well. You can trust on them for that. And I would just leave B2 Rocket Trooper for last. He doesn't counterattack, so that's okay. And now we just go into Wave 4. Wave 4 against Newt, it's probably not the hardest one. I was thrilled to see a Tactical Droid because I'm still trying to go for that Kalani portrait that you get by defeating 30 of those. So I'm pretty happy about that part. Here I believe I'd just go for a basic because I was counting, okay, I do my basic, stack does another damage, or the 5 stacks of courage, and we just go for it. And now Droideka popped off, but not a whole lot, and we really need to take care of that Droideka. Hopefully have enough protection up to get rid of him. That's what I'm thinking at this point, just trying to do some damage over to that Droideka, try to do as much as we can. Here I even go for the product move. So this is not a move that I use too often. This is an offensively made health move. But we're in wave 4. We don't need to save this heal. There is no other threat here other than Droideka. And this is your realistic option at taking care of Droideka the fastest possible. So using a health here as a way to enhance your courage tax works pretty well. You get rid of Droideka. You can go after the B1s now. You can go after Newt. You've got a lot of choices. All of them result in a win. You could have played on auto from here forward after you took care of Droideka. Here, this is... I consider this a misplay going for Tactical Droid. He's not really going to do anything to you at that point. I just killed him because I kind of wanted to. And just to make sure that the Kalani portrait doesn't glitch out. More than anything. I know it does count if you don't kill him, if the wave just ends. But I just didn't want to take a risk, and we actually kill the Newt gun right there with the extortion move. So that will be it. That's how I use the Padmé squad to go for 4 out of 4s in light side geos. So B2s are the highest priority. Save your heals until you see that your team is really on the yellows and you really need that. Or use your heal in case you want to play it offensively like we did here in the last wave. So this is how to use Padmé for 4 out of 4s. It's a really accessible team early on in the game. This is the first team I ever got my first 4 out of 4 with. I actually got my first 4 out of 4 with Padmé in light side geo. Then I got a 4 out of 4 in dark side geo because I did main this team really hard at the start of my route towards the game. So here's an alternative here for you to use. I know there's a lot more characters that you probably want to use instead of Padmé, and Padmé should be used in the special mission in P1, but it just goes to show that the Padmé strength still holds to this day in 2021. So this is how to get your waves with Padmé, because that's something that your guild needs you to go for the maximum amount of stars. But that will be all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll have a couple more light side TB stuff to present to you over the next course of the next few days. So stay tuned for that, and you can do that by subscribing. You can also leave a like. Helps out with the channel, so that'll be all. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Infinite, and see you soon.